History. The Wealthy was the earliest apple cultivar to thrive in the Minnesota climate. Horticulturalist Peter Gideon grew it first in 1868, after years of trial and error with various apple varieties. Before 1868, only crab apples grew reliably in Minnesota. American Indians in the area harvested other crops, but they did not grow apples. Early white settlers to Minnesota tried to grow apples using seeds and seedlings from the former homes to the east and the south, but the plants died, usually because of the region's harsh winters. In 1853, Peter Gideon moved to Minnesota for health reasons and took a homestead with his family on the shores of Lake Minnetonka, near Excelsior. He had learned fruit growing as a child, and when he arrived on his new land, he planted a bushel of apple seeds he had brought with him from his former home in Illinois. In the years that followed, Gideon experimented with apple and fruit growing, planting thousands of trees. But most of his trees died within a few years, if not right away, and none of them bore much fruit. By 1861, Gideon and his family had only one surviving apple tree, a Siberian crab apple, and they were down to the last $8. Determined to find an apple that would grow in Minnesota, Gideon sent the family's last dollars to an apple grower in Bangor, Maine, and got apple seeds and signs in return. Just one of the resulting trees, crossed with Gideon's Siberian crab apple, produced the apple that Gideon later named the Wealthy, after his wife, Wealthy Gideon. He was a member of the Minnesota State Horticultural Society, and he shared his knowledge and his trees freely, giving seedlings away to anyone who asked for them. Soon, Wealthy apples were growing in many locations in Minnesota, as well as in other states, especially states in the upper Midwest with similar climates. In 1870, Colonel John H. Stevens addressed the Minnesota Horticultural Society with these words: "By the early 20th century, the Wealthy apple was one of the top 5 apples grown nationally." But beyond his employment at the state farm, Gideon never made any money from the Wealthy apple. The Wealthy apple also was the parent of other successful Minnesota apples, such as the Haralson, which was developed at the University of Minnesota's fruit breeding farm in 1922. Bibliography. Alderman, W.H. Development of Horticulture on the Northern Great Plains. Sponsored by the Great Plains Region American Society for Horticultural Science, 1962. Dewin Edgar C. Peter M. Gideon, Pioneer Horticulturist, Minnesota History 44 No. 3, 96-103. Hedrick, U. P. A History of Horticulture in America to 1860. New York, Oxford University Press, 1950. Peter Gideon, Pioneer, Kept on Raising Apples, Minnetonka Record, September 20, 1935.